They pegged him as a nobody. A lean black kid with zero pull, just a ragged hoodie and a steel chain swinging loose like some pawnshop cast-off. In the schoolyard, they slammed him down, mocked his quiet spine, spat slurs that hit harder than fists. They didn't spot the thunder brewing in his eyes, didn't guess that Chain carried a secret heavy enough to sink their petty kingdom. He wasn't just a mark, he was a king cloaked in dusk, and their world was teetering on the edge of his rise. Ever been counted out? Stick around. Jamal's about to flip the script and leave you wondering what's lurking in the shadows. Lincoln High loomed in North Philly's rough sprawl, a squat brick fortress stitched with chain link and pocked asphalt. Inside, the halls thrummed. Sneakers scuffed faded tiles, lockers clattered shut, voices cut through a haze of sweat and cheap body spray. Beyond the chipped windows, March 2025 draped the city in a damp gray veil, the skyline a jagged dance of sagging row houses and the shimmer of new condos creeping up from gentrified fringes. This wasn't a school for the faint. It was a proving ground where kids from the block clashed with the heirs of lawyers and tech moguls, all scrapping for their slice of the turf. Jamal Turner slipped into this mess like a wraith. 16, wiry but solid, his dark skin stood out against the swirl of chaos. His hoodie, navy bleached to a dull ghost, draped over jeans patched at the knees, and his sneakers, once crisp, bore the grit of Girard Avenue's cracked sidewalks. A steel chain hung from his neck, its links thick and worn, a piece he brushed with his fingertips when the noise swelled too loud. He'd landed here on a scholarship, a transfer from a Germantown school that chewed up hope, now crashing with his Aunt Keisha in a tight row house off Broad Street. That's what they saw. The real deal stayed buried. Jamal was the son of Regina Turner, Philadelphia's first black female mayor, a secret locked down tight to shield him from her political vipers and the tabloids' claws. His dad, a cop gunned down in a dirty sting years back, left him a legacy he carried in stillness. Jamal wasn't loud. He glided through Lincoln's jungle, jocks flexing in varsity jackets, preps flashing smartwatches, corner hustlers marking their spots, with his eyes down, aiming to coast under the radar. His mom's voice echoed in his skull. "Stay out of the light, Jamal. You're here to build, not to brawl." He clung to that, dreaming of a college letter she could wave at press conferences, a way out of the margins. But Philly didn't let you vanish, and Lincoln High was a pressure cooker where staying unseen was a gamble he couldn't win. He wasn't alone, though. Tyrell Ty Jackson, a lanky kid with a chipped tooth and a quick grin, latched onto him day one. Ty was North Philly born, all wiry hustle and street savvy, the type who'd dodged trouble since he could walk but never ditched a friend. "You're too damn quiet, bro," Ty said, tossing a basketball his way during gym. Jamal snagged it, dribbled once, and lobbed it back, a faint smirk tugging his mouth. Ty didn't push, just stuck close. A shadow Jamal didn't shrug off. Lincoln's rhythm hit hard that first week. Jamal found his locker tagged with a crude, "Go back," in black Sharpie, the ink still wet when he ran his thumb over it. He wiped it clean with a sleeve, jaw tight, and kept moving. In the courtyard, a group of freshmen parted as he passed, their whispers trailing him like smoke. "New kid's weird. Looks broke as hell." He ignored it, settling into a routine. Algebra in a back row, lunch at a corner table, gym where he dodged the spotlight. Ty tagged along, filling the silence with chatter about Sixers games or the latest corner beef, but even he couldn't block the eyes sizing Jamal up. The teachers clocked him too. Ms. Hargrove, a graying history vet, paused over his name on the roll, her brow creasing. "Turner, huh? You related to anybody big?" she asked, half joking. Jamal shrugged, eyes on his desk, the chain a cool weight against his chest. She let it slide, but her gaze lingered, like she sensed something off. Principal Ortiz, a stocky Puerto Rican with a buzz cut, stopped him in the hall once, peering over his glasses. "You're the scholarship kid, right? Keep your nose clean. We don't do handouts here." Jamal nodded, voice flat. "Yes, sir." He meant to. Trouble wasn't his plan. But plans don't hold up in a place like this. Bryce Maddox ruled Lincoln High like it was his fiefdom. 17, broad as a linebacker with a buzz cut and a sneer that oozed cash. He was the son of a contractor who paved Philly's future while bankrolling the mayor's loudest foes. His crew trailed him like hounds. Derek, a slab of muscle with scarred knuckles. Sean, lean and shifty, always grinning. And Mia, a blonde with a sharp jaw and sharper tongue, her ex-account a blade of its own. They lived to break kids. Freshmen who flinched under their glares. Geeks who shone too bright. Outsiders who didn't bow. Jamal hit Bryce's scope fast. It kicked off in the cafeteria, a sweatbox of clanging trays and buzzing lights. Jamal sat alone, peeling an orange, when Bryce loomed over him. "Yo, food stamp. This your big score?" he mocked, snatching the tray and dumping it. Orange slices, a soggy PB&J, a milk carton, onto the grime-streaked floor. The room hummed as Derek stepped up, hooking his foot around Jamal's ankle as he bent to grab his stuff. "Scrape it up, trash," Derek hissed, the unspoken "your kind" thick in the air. Kids craned their necks, some chuckling, others ducking their trays. Jamal's fingers brushed the chain, his pulse hammering, but he rose, shook off the mess, and slipped out, leaving the wreckage and jeers behind. Bryce's eyes narrowed. He wanted a whimper, not this blank defiance. The locker room struck next. Post-gym, the air heavy with steam and bravado, Jamal was toweling off when Bryce pounced. He ripped the chain from Jamal's neck, steel flashing as he dangled it. "What's this, huh? Your mom's jail charm?" Sean leaned on a bench, smirking. "Bet she's doing time with the rest. Fits the type." The crew hooted, tossing it like a frisbee till it splashed into a drain, water swirling around its links. Jamal shouldered through, fished it out, dripping, cold, his chest tight with a heat he choked down. He wiped it on his shirt, slung it back on, and walked out, their taunts trailing him like fumes. Bryce's jaw tightened. He craved a crack, not this mute steel. Classroom digs followed. In history, Mr. Evans rambled about the Civil War while Mia leaned over, her whisper slicing through. "Jamal's a quota kid. Lincoln needed a black face for the grant cash, right?" Bryce piled on. "Yeah, pity points keep him here. Teacher's little charity pet." The room tittered, eyes darting to Jamal's desk where his pencil bent under his grip, snapping with a faint pop. He traced the chain's ridges, staring at the wood grain, letting their barbs slide off. He didn't bite. Not yet. The hallway turned ugly. After school, the corridor was a bottleneck of shoving bodies and shouted plans. Bryce and his pack boxed Jamal in near the exit, the day's end a dull roar around them. "You don't fit, ghetto rat," Bryce growled, slamming him into a locker, the metal denting with a groan. Derek tore Jamal's backpack, papers spilling, algebra notes, a sketch of the chain, his name scratched out in haste. "Look at this junk," Mia said, snagging a sheet and snapping a pic. "Lincoln's charity flop. Gonna cry to your auntie?" She posted it on X, likes ticking up as Sean stomped the rest into a mess. Bryce yanked the chain again, stuffing it in his pocket. "Give me that back," Jamal said, voice low, cutting through their guffaws. Bryce smirked, flipping it in his hands. "Earn it, punk." Jamal's fists clenched, but he turned, pushed through the crowd, their whispers a jagged hum. Friday upped the ante. In gym, Bryce turned a pickup game into a brawl. Jamal dribbled past him, smooth and quick, when Bryce drove an elbow into his ribs. Hard, deliberate, knocking him to the hardwood. "Stay out of my lane, scrub," Bryce hissed, the crowd hushing as Jamal rolled to his feet, wincing but steady. Ty jogged over, muttering, "You good, man?" Jamal nodded, brushing it off, but Bryce wasn't done. Later in the cafeteria, he swiped Jamal's sketchbook, a beat-up spiral of pencil lines, fists, chains, and tore a page free. "What's this? Therapy for bums?" he jeered, crumpling it and tossing it into a trash can. Mia filmed, her giggle a shard of glass while Derek nudged Jamal's shoulder, daring a swing. Jamal grabbed his bag, eyes locked on the can, but walked away, the chain's absence a raw ache. Saturday brought a new low. At the bus stop outside Lincoln, Bryce and Sean caught him waiting, Ty a block away. "Thought you'd run, huh?" Bryce taunted, shoving him into the shelter's glass, cracks spidering out. Sean snatched his hoodie's hood, yanking him back, and Bryce kicked his shin, sharp, stinging. "Nobody's here, punk. Cry now." A few kids watched from across the street, silent, phones down. Jamal steadied himself, chain gone but his glare fierce, and limped off as their laughter faded. Ty caught up, breathless. "They're animals, man. You gotta hit back." Jamal shook his head, voice low. "Not yet." That night, Keisha found him on the stoop, head in his hands, shin bruised purple. "They're pushing too hard," he rasped. She handed him the chain, polished, gleaming, and dropped the bomb. "It's your dad's badge, Jamal. Regina's son. You're the mayor's kid. We hid you here, but you ain't no target." The truth sank in. His mom, Philly's queen, cloaking him from her enemies. The chain, his dad's steel, a vow he'd never known. The revelation hit like a freight train. Regina Turner, his mom, the iron fist of City Hall, had buried his identity to keep him clear of her political wolves. The chain, forged from his dad's badge, was her promise, linking him to a cop's guts and a mayor's throne. "Why now?" he asked Keisha, voice hoarse. She gripped his shoulder. "'Cause you're ready to stand." Bryce's ex-post lit the spark. Jamal's crumpled sketch captioned, "Philly's trash thinks he's tough," with a challenge. "Backlot, Friday, 6 p.m. Prove it." By dusk, the lot, a sprawl of cracked pavement and rusted wrecks, teemed with 50 kids, phones aglow, bets flying. Bryce cracked his knuckles, his crew circling like vultures. Jamal stepped in, hoodie loose, chain reclaimed, Keisha's truth blazing in his core. "Ready to bleed, Charity?" Bryce taunted, feinting a jab. The crowd roared, "Wreck him, Bryce! He's done!" Jamal stood firm as Bryce swung, a wild hook aimed at his jaw. He slid left, chain coiled around his fist, catching the blow with a sharp clank. Bryce grunted, off balance, and Jamal snapped a jab into his chest, crisp and fierce. The linebacker hit the dirt, gasping, and Jamal towered over him. "This was my dad's," he said, voice slicing the din. Bryce lurched up, spitting. "You're dead. This ain't over." Saturday proved it. Bryce ambushed him in the parking lot, a crowbar glinting, his crew at his heels. "End you now, punk!" he bellowed, swinging at Jamal's ribs. The bar grazed him, blood seeping through his shirt, but Jamal rolled, chain whipping out. It cracked Bryce's wrist, the weapon skittering free. Derek charged. Jamal ducked, drove a knee into his gut, dropping him cold. He tackled Bryce into a truck's hood, pinning him as Ty shouted, "He's the mayor's kid, you idiots!" The crowd froze. Regina Turner's name was Law, but her son? Phones dipped, murmurs swelling. Bryce wheezed, defiance fading, but Jamal held tight. Monday sealed it. In the courtyard, grass patchy underfoot, Bryce taped his fists, a last stab at glory. "You're a fake!" he roared, lunging with a taped-up swing. Jamal caught it mid-flight, twisted Bryce's arm till he yelped, then hooked his ankle, sending him sprawling. "My mom runs this city," Jamal said loud and clear, the chain swaying as he stepped back. "You picked the wrong war." Tires crunched. An SUV rolled up, Regina Turner stepping out, suit sharp, eyes fierce. "Jamal!" she called, striding forward, and the crowd parted, stunned. Bryce gaped, his throne ash under her shadow, but the fire didn't die there. Tuesday in gym, Sean tried a cheap shot, slamming a basketball at Jamal's head during a drill. Jamal snagged it midair, spun, and sank a three-pointer, staring Sean down till he shrank back. Wednesday, Mia posted a snide X-jab. Mayor's kid or not, he's still trash. And Jamal found her at her locker, chain glinting. "Say it to my face," he said, voice low. She stammered, backed off, and deleted the post by lunch. Thursday, Derek cornered him in the stairwell, fists up. "Bryce ain't here. You're mine." Jamal sidestepped, tripped him down 3 steps, and kept walking, Derek's groan echoing behind. Friday brought the real blow. Ty dragged Jamal to the lot after school, eyes wide. "You gotta see this." He'd snagged Bryce's phone, dropped during the parking lot mess, and cracked it open. A text thread glowed. Bryce to his dad, Maddox Sr. "Turner's kid's here. You said to push him. What now?" A reply. "Keep it up. He'll break." We'll handle the rest." Jamal's stomach dropped. Bryce wasn't just a bully, he was a pawn. His dad's voice crackled in his memory. "Watch who pulls strings, son." The chain felt heavier. Had Bryce known all along? Bryce was dust by week's end. The crowbar stunt landed him in juvie. His dad's clout couldn't dodge Regina's wrath. Derek nursed a bruised ego and a twisted ankle. Sean faded into the crowd, and Mia's ex went silent, her crew a memory. Lincoln High shifted. Jocks tipped their heads at Jamal in the halls. Preps whispered his name with a flicker of dread. Teachers called on him with a new edge of respect. The chain stayed on, a quiet badge of his roots, a cop's spine, a mayor's steel. Jamal didn't strut. He stuck to his corners, cafeteria nook with a bruised apple, algebra notes in a patched spiral, the lot now a sparring ground where he and Ty traded punches after dusk. He'd hauled his dad's old gloves from Keisha's attic, leather cracked but sturdy, and worked a bag in their yard till sweat stung his eyes. Regina watched one night, perched on the stoop, her mayor's mask off. "You're his fire, Jamal," she said, voice catching. "Iron all the way." He nodded, the chain a steady pulse against his skin. The halls morphed. Jamal paced them, hoodie still frayed, but his stride carried weight. No flash, just gravity. Bryce's locker sat bare, a tombstone to his fall, and the lot stayed hushed. No one dared claim it. One afternoon, Sean tested him, bumped him in the hall, a spark of old nerve. Jamal pivoted, stared him down till he shrank, then kept moving. The chain clinked, a soft warning etched in the air. Ty became his anchor. They'd spar in the lot, gloves thudding, Ty's laugh cutting the dusk. "You're a beast, man," he'd say, dodging a jab. "Mayor's kid or not, you'd still wreck 'em." Jamal smirked, landing a light hook. "Ain't about that. It's the chain." Ty nodded, wiping sweat. "Your dad's ghost, huh?" Jamal didn't answer, just kept swinging, the steel a tether to a man he barely knew. Regina pulled him aside one Sunday, her office a fortress of oak and glass overlooking the Schuylkill. "You're out now," she said, hands clasped. "They know who you are. Means new fights." Jamal met her gaze, chain glinting under the desk lamp. "I can handle it." She smiled, faint but real. "I know, but watch your back. Bryce wasn't solo." Her words hung, a warning he couldn't shake. Weeks later, a shadow deepened. Ty dragged Jamal to the lot one evening, a duffel slung over his shoulder. "Found this," he said, unzipping it. A stack of yellowed files, photos, a badge etched, "Turner." "Your dad's case. Keisha had it stashed. Look." Jamal flipped through, reports of his dad's last bust, names circled, a note in Regina's scrawl. They're still out there. His gut twisted. Maddox Sr. topped the list, a contractor tied to the sting that took his father. A photo slipped free, a younger Regina, pregnant, beside his dad, and a cryptic line. "Watch the chain. It's the key." Jamal's breath caught. Bryce's texts flashed in his mind. "You said to push him." Had Bryce known? Was the chain more than steel, a clue to a war still simmering? And who else was watching, waiting for him to stumble?